coming from a background that was in the intersection of culture and technology and entertainment, that the people that we've worked with really do care about their fan bases. There's a lot of blockers in these people's worlds, whether it be, their team, their time, their obligations, their deals. But if you actually talk to the person and you say, it's going to take you X, Y, and Z to do X, Y, and Z for your audience, or it's going to take your company X, Y, and Z to do this for your audience, the people that we've chosen to work with are willing to do more for their fan bases. I just don't think that the medium has been created for them to do it in a way that makes sense to them, where the impact of their time and effort actually is returned, not to them, because they can always get money for their time and effort if they really want it, but where their impact is actually lasting and actually grows something meaningful for their fan base.
Hey everybody, Tanner here with WAGMI Ventures. On today's episode, we have Dillon Rosenblatt, co-founder and CEO of Autograph. For anyone who's new, this is the WAGMI Ventures podcast where we do snapshots with interesting founders from across Web3. Check out wagmiventures.io to learn more about the syndicate behind the podcast, but for now, let's get into it with Dillon from Autograph. All right. Hey, everybody. I'm here with Dillon Rosenblatt, co-founder and CEO of Autograph. Dillon, how's it going today?
It's going well. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you here. I know we have a ton to talk about. So let's just jump right in. Would love to learn a little bit more about kind of your story and what brought you to what you're building with Autograph.
Definitely. Well, my background is since I was about 15 years old. I've been working on startup ideas, founded my first company just before I was 16. Worked on a variety of them through high school, through college, and then was jumping between ideas in 2019, 2020, trying to figure out what I wanted to do next. I was working full-time at Cameo, and I started to just think through what the smartest people are excited about, and it really seemed to be crypto. So I was working with an AI team on a couple of ideas. We looked into a crypto hedge fund for about 10 minutes, and then when looking towards the edges of the space of what people were talking about, I saw an NFT. And when I had the realization, as I'm sure many of us did, that digital ownership could now be possible and really be possible, it just, a light bulb went off in my head that this has to work for collectibles, and this has to work for any form of media that can be owned. So let's bring the most amazing people we can into Web3 and launch collections that can curate communities. So I was lucky enough to be able to co-found this with Tom Brady, bring some amazing people together around me. And since then, I think we've really done a good job of bringing exciting talent into Web3 and exciting brands and properties to drive these brand new experiences. And we're all early in this space. It's obviously been an interesting last couple of weeks, months in crypto, but I think that attention and awareness and getting the right people really excited about what we're doing and what we're building here as a community is just going to be a huge catalyst for when the next wave comes. Love it.
Yeah. I definitely want to talk about all those really interesting people that have gotten involved with Autograph maybe later in the conversation, but just for everyone's kind of clarity, what is Autograph?
Yep. We see Autograph as the place for the future of fandom. We've brought together the most exciting people in culture and the most exciting properties that we could possibly work with to drive new experiences in Web3 in the space. And we started off mostly by selling collectibles with utility attached for our community. And we think that that was a great starting point. But as the company develops, we look at fandom as a network and want to build applications that can actually drive the next generation of fandom and give fans a more meaningful stake in the things that they care about, have their ownership go further than it is today, and just really drive a new ecosystem for these communities to have better and more meaningful experiences.
Love it. Super interesting. Could you talk a little bit about kind of NFTs in general, and maybe specifically too, kind of how you talk about and conceptualize for like non-crypto native folks, some of the value and possibilities of what Autograph enables?
Well, the way that we actually got a lot of first-time buyers into the space, over 50,000 of our buyers actually bought an NFT for the first time with Autograph, which is pretty special. We were able to just say, collectibles. This is a collectible that you now own. We sold them at an accessible price point. Our offerings came out at $12, with our most expensive one being $15 at our first offering. And so people felt like it was something that they didn't have to take much of a risk on to get into the space and dive in. And the fact that you could own this, the first series that we launched, preseason passes, looked a lot like sports cards. So the memorabilia audience actually was surprisingly excited about what we were doing. And that's really how we positioned it, is you can now own these digital collectibles because of blockchain technology. We abstracted away a lot of the complexity, both in our communications and our product design, especially partnering with DraftKings and DraftKings Marketplace, where they were a credit card first and still are a credit card first marketplace. We've since had our NFTs been withdrawn. You can find them on OpenSea all around today. And we are a crypto first company, but the only way that we could safely bring these icons into the space was to find a trusted centralized intermediary that could actually make it easy for the consumer to purchase, that is far from owning their own crypto, their own keys. And we're just interested in collecting around the icon. And some of the value that I think got people excited was, one, these felt like sports cards and the next generation of sports cards, which people enjoyed. And two, the community and experiences we provided. Once people hold NFTs, we've seen this social phenomenon that isn't new to anybody listening to this podcast, where people unite into strong communities, build new relationships. The ice is automatically broken between people. And from there, people came for the collectibles and stayed for the community. And the culture they've built has gone so far beyond just owning an Icons NFT and becoming a Tom Brady fan. It's become part of their lives. I've met amazing people through this process, and I know they've really enjoyed meeting each other. So overall, I think they came for the simplicity of you could pay with a credit card in a safe way and own the NFT. And then now it's formed into a community that I think has the potential to really drive fandom into the future if we give them the right tools to do it. And that's what I'm excited about in the 1, 3, 5 year plan.
Yeah, let's talk about that. Like, could you unpack a little bit what you kind of see coming for the future of NFTs, especially around kind of sports and entertainment NFTs? I feel like your vantage point might be kind of unparalleled for a question like this. So can you share some of the exciting vision I'm sure you're thinking about and kind of living in every day?
Absolutely. And I'm thinking of how you approach this question, because there's so many ways that you can go. The first thing I'll say is that I think the market at first was excited about ownership. Wow, I can own something digitally. And I think you've seen in certain projects that rabid fandom. At times, the ownership alone is all right. The ownership plus the community, which I think will always be a part of NFT ownership, no matter what, because of the way that they've seemed to unite people, or at least with today's project-based community NFT ownership. The way that they've united people is sometimes enough. If you look at the Marvel fandom, if you look at the fandom around most of our icons that are big enough to command that kind of audience, people are excited to own. But I think people quickly said, I own this. Now what? Which is why a lot of founders and project owners have had to scramble to start to figure out the now what. Luckily for us, we had some utility built in. We are an organization that has resources and funding. We were able to do a lot of exciting things for our community. But the now what, I think, is a interesting problem that we all have to work together to solve. And I think the way that it was solved at first was utility, whether it's merch, experiences, more NFTs, derivative projects, things we've seen in the space. So I guess what I'm trying to say is I think the cycle is going to go back to the truest fans, and the people that love collecting in the real world are going to be excited about digital ownership and collecting. And then I think the community and experience will be something that they're able to put on themselves. And I've said this before, but I actually believe that this technology and this ownership is going to, if not in the actual applicant, it's going to create a need for businesses to do better for their audiences because of this ownership, because of the increased optionality of Web3. And I think it's going to force businesses to start to look at any purchaser as more of a loyal customer, and then to do more for that audience and fan base. And hopefully Autograph can be the company that, through the things that we build and the things that we do, the products we release, drives those partners to say, I have this community of fans that provides me an immense amount of value. How can I create something that provides value back to them? And that what we create is part of what the secret sauce we're working on is an Autograph.
Yeah, super interesting. So let's go back to the beginning a little bit. So what were some of the early challenges, and how did you and your team solve for those early challenges?
I guess some of the early challenges at first were convincing the big names to dive into the space and to explain the value of Web3 to them. It was early on. I remember the first slide of my pitch deck was, what is an NFT? And I just said, the way that you can think about it, we'll handle the rest, is digital ownership. You can now give your fans something to own digitally, and we're going to start with collectibles. So I guess once we got over that mental hurdle, I think the other part of it was managing the supply overall, which I think a lot of companies face, especially if you look at the early ones. I mean, who knew how big this market was going to become overall? And it did really boom. But right. I think that being able to have a faucet for supply without a sink to take supply out, and we were in a unique situation where that wasn't possible, was definitely a challenge for us early on. But we sold them at anywhere between 12, 20, 50 US dollars on primary, which if you look at the average NFT sales was well below the rest of the market, because no icon or autograph came into this space saying we're going to try to charge our fans a lot of money. It was more, let's give them something to own digitally and let's provide some cool experiences as a result and get into this new paradigm together. So I would say it's a combination of, first, the learning curve that we continue to face of half their fan base says, I'm interested in this because it's cool, it's accessible, and I want to own something. The other half says, I don't quite trust NFTs yet. I think the whole space is dealing with that. But for us, I think it's looking at what we do in the future and saying, how do you create a continuous, fun experience that isn't just centered around drops? How do you make it centered around experiences? And what happens in 3 to 5 years? Is that same NFT you own still providing you those experiences? And I think the answer is actually yes, but then we have to build products that allow for that to become sustainable. So I think we're facing the challenge that a lot of different project founders face, regardless if you're working with the biggest celebrities in the world and brands in the world, or if you're just 3 founders launching an amazing project. It's an unsolved problem in the space that the team and I are working on.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. So I'm curious, what stood out as most surprising thus far in your work building Autograph, where, I think we've kind of touched on this, but I think one thing as an outsider that was surprising was just kind of the sheer concentration of remarkable people who've aligned around Autograph's work and vision of the future. So like, you mentioned Tom Brady, there's Simone Biles, Derek Jeter, Tiger Woods. It kind of goes on and on. So I guess I'm really curious, like you as an insider, what's been most surprising along the journey for yourself?
Yeah, and if I can go back to just one thing I said before, and I'm happy to dive into that, but I said that it's an unsolved problem for project owners, and I want to be clear that it's because there are project owners. If you give the tools to the community and unite them through NFT ownership and build a couple applications for them to connect, or they can use Discord or whatever's already there, that community, I believe, then will build something much greater than the centralized project and project owners ever could. So I actually think that's how the space gets there, but I just don't think we're there yet with the way that people are using the technology, the way that people understand it to get there in the sector of fandom, whether it's of a team or an individual. I think we've seen it. If you look at the popular layer ones, there's full communities, marketplaces. It's amazing to see what's been built. I just don't know if we're there for fandom yet, because I don't think anybody has cracked the code of what needs to be in place for those communities to start to provide more value to each other and to the overall thing they're united around than the thing that they're united around ever could, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. 100%.
Yeah. Sorry, I just wanted to add that. I realize that's really where I think that this space takes off and changes the game. But back to your question, I guess, what's the most exciting thing that stood out to me working with these people and building Autograph, or the most surprising? I guess the surprise, it was coming from a background that was in the intersection of culture and technology and entertainment, that the people that we've worked with really do care about their fan bases. There's a lot of blockers in these people's worlds, whether it be, their team, their time, their obligations, their deals. But if you actually talk to the person and you say, it's going to take you X, Y, and Z to do X, Y, and Z for your audience, or it's going to take your company X, Y, and Z to do this for your audience, the people that we've chosen to work with are willing to do more for their fan bases. I just don't think that the medium has been created for them to do it in a way that makes sense to them, where the impact of their time and effort actually is returned, not to them, because they can always get money for their time and effort if they really want it, but where their impact is actually lasting and actually grows something meaningful for their fan base. That I don't believe yet exists. So the willingness, though, to commit that time, I think has been astounding. And the actual care for their audience is really important, but they just don't have the way to actually reward and engage their fan bases yet. And that's what we're so excited about in Web3.
Yeah, definitely. So, as NFTs have cooled off this year, it seems like kind of partly as a function of this crypto winter we're all experiencing, plus just kind of general macro uncertainty and, impending recession, that whole conversation. What have been the conversations been like within Autograph, and what's been your attitude towards kind of building through the bear market and coming out on the other side, stronger and even more ready when things pick up again?
Yeah, it's no secret that the market has changed significantly, and consumers' expectations have also changed. You have to really be delivering something that people can understand to win in this market, or really tap into the core of, in our case, the fandom that exists. So the Autograph team is really looking to get back into a position where we're building for the long term. Some people say this winter could be 6 months. Others say 24 to 36 months because of the macro environment, not just the crypto environment. And we will have to see. But I guess the perspective that we have is I really believe in NFTs long term. I think digital ownership is going to be massive. I think it can change the way that people think about interacting online. And it's just going to take some time to get there. So during this time, we'll build. But an example is right now, if you're going to any website, it's almost like you're renting their time right now. I heard this on another podcast, and I thought it was brilliant, so I'll steal some of it. But if I'm going on to booking.com and getting my hotel room, I'm almost renting it from booking.com. And if I want to cancel it, it's just between me and booking.com. Instead of if that reservation was actually an NFT and it's something I owned and held, there's a market that's inherently created for me to buy, sell, and trade that NFT and that asset and be able to actually profit off the decisions that I make. Or if that's not the goal, have the flexibility to actually do something different than I otherwise would with just a centralized intermediary. I don't have the end idea yet, but I do think it's pretty powerful.
Yeah, that's super interesting. So, what are you learning about this community that's formed around Autograph? My understanding is that the Discord community itself is pretty large and active. And so I guess I'm curious about kind of what aspects or conversations around Autograph are people most excited about and engaged with?
Yep. I think that the thing that gets the most exciting for me with our community is just the culture that they've built that is outside of the actual icons. But we do whatever we can, honestly, even through the winter, and we'll continue to do it to make sure our community is entertained. I think that people have gotten a little bit upset with Project Utility in the past broadly because it boils down to we're going to do some merch, there's going to be a derivative project, and then we're going to take you all to the metaverse. I think that's kind of been the playbook for a lot of these PFP projects. But we this year in 2022, we've now had close to 4 50-plus person activations. It will be 4 by the end of the year. And we've done a lot of other exciting things. We've sent people to Tony Hawk Vert Alert. We've sent people to Firefly, to music festivals. I think that it's our job to find interesting ways with our partners to keep providing that experience to people. And I think a lot of people have come around to be there for the right reasons. And in my past example, I think that flexibility NFT provides, your ownership, people start to think about money, but that's never been the goal for Autograph from the start, is to let people buy and flip and trade these things. So I think in this kind of market and with these market conditions, our active Discord community has actually focused less on the trading aspect of NFTs that I think is actually not helpful to the market overall. And
Yeah.
they've started to focus on what community can we build, what experiences can we build together, and what experiences can we tell the Autograph team and Autograph community that we all want, either from the icons or from us as the medium between them and their fandom. So I think it's just been a cultural shift within the Autograph community where people are excited to be here for what I personally consider the right reasons. We sold our NFTs between $12 up to $80, whatever it may be, because these were digital collectibles that were to form community. These were not, the intention from us was never for NFTs to moon or any of that as a company. We want to drive brand new fan experiences. And I think this market that we're in gives the community a chance to really tell us what they want so we can start to build the products that will enable them to reach their goals and experience that kind of fandom.
Yeah, I love it. It does seem so important to kind of stay engaged with the community and make it kind of an iterative loop, right?
I will be hanging out with them in just a few. I think the community has been everything. I've had some of the most rewarding and fun times in my tenure as CEO, just when the community and I are on the same page, growing something together. They've actually self-organized into a club within Autograph around the collectibles that they call the Signature Club. Something that was pretty unique about our offering was we actually have hand-signed NFTs on Autograph. So we send an iPad to any partner's house, whether it's Derek Jeter, Simone Biles, Tom Brady, and they actually individually and hand sign each NFT. And the uniqueness of that signature is reflected in the metadata, which is pretty cool. And our communities love them. They make them their profile pictures. They've all joined the Signature Club. So it's a special part of our offering. And overall, it's just been really promising to see that when you do good for your community and when you actually deliver value to them and value on the things that they want and that you can safely deliver, they return the value for you. It's exceptional to see.
Love it. Yeah. So let's take a step back really quick, where I'm curious if you have any advice for founders who are building in the Web3 space, especially maybe ones who kind of mediate somewhat between a crypto native and non-crypto native audience. Where, like, on your website, for example, I loved the NFTs 101 page, where it's just kind of a simple breakdown for folks new to the concept of NFTs. That seemed like a really helpful kind of mediation. So I'm curious about that experience and any kind of broader, more generalizable advice you may have either for current founders or founders in the future.
I think the advice that I would give is start small. If you have a seed of an idea, great. Start small, start to build a vibrant community, and then do it together and take that next step together. And it won't be easy. You have to bootstrap some of it, but every product inevitably needs to go through cycles to stay ahead of the curve and to continue to innovate. And you've seen the companies that keep innovating, keep winning, and the founders that keep innovating, keep winning. But I think that when there's a lot of uncertainty and a lot of questions in the space, I would find that core and trust that some of the feedback and some of the advice that you get from that community will drive what you should be doing next versus assuming. Assuming now, if you have a grand vision and want to build it in silence, that's one path to go. I know a lot of entrepreneurs do. But what I would say is take that seed of the idea, take that core values and mission, and find the people that agree with it, and then go build this together. And I believe that's really what the power of Web3 unlocks.
Love it. Yeah. Okay. So before we wrap up, I have to ask kind of the obligatory question of, what's it been like working with Tom Brady on Autograph? It must have been a blast so far, right?
It really has been. Tom is the man. He's as supportive of a co-founder and co-chairman as I could ever imagine. He is always willing to be there for us, for his community. This year we launched the season ticket on Autograph, which was our flagship product for 2022, really. It's a 7-month fan journey and fan experience that's gotten our users an incredible amount of utility. We have token-gated media and token-gated media, which translates to fantasy advice every week from Matthew Berry live for our community, 4 IRL events in LA, Boston, Atlanta, and then Tampa with Tom himself and some exciting friends of Tom. And he's been committed every step of the way And he also gives weekly content and play breakdowns and all the above to his community.
Oh, wow.
So he always finds time for his audience, and he's still second in passing yards in the league, being Tom Brady. I mean, I think he's going to set the example for how, if icons want to dive into the space and want to provide their communities with new experiences, how they need to do it. And he might tell you it takes a reasonable amount of time. It's not nothing, but it's something that you can handle and I can handle, because the people that have helped build my brand and my awareness deserve that return. So I think he's been both a leader within Autograph and for our culture, and then for the space at large. And as Web3 develops, I believe he'll continue to be.
Love it. Okay, Dillon, so what's your team working on right now, and what's the best way for people to follow along your journey?
The team is working on a couple exciting entertainment-related drops. We have a drop going on today, our Slam drop. We have covers from Slam Magazine, the iconic basketball magazine. We have covers from some of the greatest athletes in history dropping today. But we're really working on a combination of unique drops with a lot of utility attached for true fans and building for the future, which to me is taking advantage of this network that Web3 inherently provides and building the right tools to give fans a better experience. And I know that's vague at the current moment, but I'm keeping it vague intentionally because that's what we're doing behind the scenes. But the way to stay up to date is my Twitter is Dillon Rose 24, but that's not as exciting as the Autograph Twitter, which is just Autograph, and autograph.io, which is our website.
Perfect. All right, Dillon, thank you so much for the time. This was awesome to get a chance to learn more about Autograph and some of the really cool work you guys are doing. And I can't wait to watch the coming weeks and months as you guys continue to build and continue to do great stuff. So thank you again for the time, and have a great upcoming weekend here.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
All right. Bye-bye.